Cascade Hoops Talk, bringing the world NAIA basketball one podcast at a time. So today we have Chris Francis. He's in his 7th season there at Science and Arts. He's been with the program since 2013, head coach for 7 years. During his time at the helm of the Drovers, he's got 113 wins, taking his team to several national tournaments. And during this period, the Drovers have also won 2 Sooner Athletic Conference tournament championships. He also has led the Drovers to the quarterfinals of the NAIA championships, which was USAO's best showing at the tournament since they won the national championship back in 2002. He's a native of Cleora, Oklahoma. He spent some time assisting at LSU Shreveport before coming to Science and Arts. While he was at Shreveport, they made the semifinals. So this guy is a winner, always has been around winners and knows how to win. He started his collegiate coaching. He student assisted at Rogers in 2011, where they made a appearance in the quarterfinals. He played there at Rogers State, the Hillcats, now an NC2A Division II school. He ended his career with 800 points. He was the all-time career holder for games played, 123, 139 steals, almost 2,500 minutes played. Hey, Billy D, Cascade Hoops Talk. Hey, we're here with Chris Francis. He's the head coach there at Science and Arts. It's what everybody calls it. It's actually the University of Science and Arts of Oklahoma. Welcome aboard, Chris Francis. Thank you for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to talk with you and tell you a little bit about myself, our program, and a little bit about the NAIA.
So you've been coaching there at Science and Arts, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is your 7th year. You've had quite a bit of success there. You've won going into this season 113 games. Just talk a little bit about what brought you to Science and Arts.
I've going into my 7th season, and been here. I was here 2 years prior before taking over the head coach position, but prior to that, before I got here, where it all started, I was down in Shreveport with Kyle Blankenship at LSUS. He was a young coach that gave me an opportunity right after I graduated from Rogers State. He knew I was wanting to get into the business, and he had an opportunity to coach me as an assistant at Rogers State. And then I had the opportunity to stay on as a student assistant the next year. And Coach Blankenship got the offer at LSUS, and he kind of gave me the opportunity. We didn't know how it kind of would unfold, and I just took a leap of faith and went down there with him and had a memorable year. It's kind of what started everything and prepared me where I am now, I think, and I've learned so much through him. And so we went to the Fab Four our first year together at LSUS, and then a job opened up in our conference. And when I was at Rogers State, we played in the Sooner Athletic Conference, so I was really familiar with USAO at the time, and so I was really interested in getting back into the conference. I had called Coach McPherson and the head coach at the time, and he gave me an opportunity to come up, and was there for a couple of years, and an opening came up, and they thought I was the right guy for it. I was excited. Briscoe McPherson, our AD right now, he's a mentor of mine, and I've been learning a lot from him. And so through my 7 years, that's kind of a quick background and rundown on how I got to where I was at. And we love it here. Me and my wife and my 2 boys, we planted our feet here, and it's such a great community. Everybody supports everybody, and they're going to help you out. They're going to come to games. They're going to feed our players. They're going to whatever they can do in our community. They're always willing to help. So we love it here. Excited to be here.
Yeah, that sounds like a very supportive environment. Coach Francis, you actually played at Rogers State, which is a NC2A Division II school now, but you had a pretty good career there. What brought you to Rogers State? Why did you decide to play basketball there?
Well, I'm glad you asked. That's a first time I've been asked that question, but I think it's a unique story and unique question. Rogers State was a first-year program being built from the ground up. And so when I came out of college, was going to go the JUCO route, but decided to take a leap of faith and trust in Ren Baker, who is now the athletic director at the University of North Texas there in Denton. And so he started the program. He was the AD and the head coach at the time, and I was the second player ever to sign at Rogers State for a scholarship. And what we did is we set out that whole year, me and about 14 other guys, and we practiced and we played and we did everything like we was going to play for a championship that year, but we had no game. Scrimmage, I believe, the firefighter department, the YMCA rec league guys, we scrimmaged everybody. We treated it just like a game, and it was really cool. It was really challenging at the time, but everybody had a red shirt, took it that year. And so going into the next year was a year we was going to be in the SAC and get things rolling. And so got through that year, and then the first year in the SAC, I think we competed really well. We didn't lose we didn't lose more than 10 games every year I was there at Rogers State. I know I was just talking to my coaching staff about it the other day, because we actually had a shoot around there before we played Evangel the night before, and got to looking at the banners and realized that when I was there, we averaged I think it was 22 wins a season, which is pretty good. And so Rogers State is unbelievable. That's my alma mater. That's a dream job of mine. Coach Barkley's doing a heck of a job. He was my coach my last year there. And I mean, it's just an awesome place.
It's really amazing when and don't take this wrong, but basically you went from a City League team to a full-blown NAIA team, and you started averaging 20 wins a season. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it just kept growing. Still growing. The support is still there, and they're in the MIAA now, which is one of the best conference Division II, if not the best. And so that's just kind of what they've been used to, is competing in the best league that they can be in at whatever level they're at. And so they haven't taken any steps back. All the steps forward at Rogers State have been, championship caliber years, if you ask me. And I think they actually won. They were in the Heart of America, I believe, and won it the first year they were in that. And then they transitioned to the MIAA. I think it was a couple years ago.
Coach, when did you first start thinking that you wanted to be a coach?
As soon as I was nearing my end of my college career, I kind of figured that I was a decent player. I was a solid player, but the time that I wanted to go pro is whenever we was having the NBA lockout. And so the overseas jobs was hard to come by. And we just kind of figured that it wasn't going to be in my best interest to kind of fight the big D1, guys going over there and this and that. And so, I wanted to stay involved in it. And we thought the next opportunity, me and the coaching staff there at Rogers State thought the next opportunity would be, a coach, assistant coach, because that's kind of how I played as a player. I kind of was the coach on the floor, and just did the little things that all the coaches would preach. And so I fell in love with it once I got my junior year and senior year. I really started grasping the maturity side of the business side of the basketball programs and stuff like that, and just started looking into it, and thought it'd be a pretty fun gig to wake up and not have to call our job a job every day, and just go do something you love.
So you have a pretty good team this year. I want to talk about this group you have this season. But, I was going through your roster, and, most of them are from Oklahoma. I'm always curious about recruiting philosophy. Where do you try to recruit? What kind of guy do you look for? And do you try to lean toward transfers for your high school guys? Talk a little bit about your recruiting there at Science and Arts.
I've always told, whenever I had the opportunity to get the job, I would always tell, my AD, who was my mentor now, that, I think the reason that you get the big crowds and, have the big support in the community is if, obviously staying local. And so I always believe that, we can recruit against most of the NCAA Division II schools in Oklahoma. And so if I felt that, we could get a kid that, a couple of these D2s were trying to get, we would definitely try. And so, I've always looked to try to nail down a big-time high school player right out of high school. Like, Stephon Hall is a kid that has been here for 4 years and has just flourished. And I saw him one summer in an AAU event that, I was kind of the only one in the gym at the time, and he kind of just went off, played really well. And so I kind of offered him when kind of nobody was around at the time. So I just stayed on him and kept, staying on them. And the selling point for our freshmen is, they got a chance to come here and compete right away, come here and compete for a national championship, and stay close to home. A lot of these kids are from the city, which is about 30 minutes from us. A couple of them are from Tulsa, which is about an hour and a half. I'm from Oklahoma, and so it's kind of an easy selling point that way. But I kind of like to go get the transfers as well. You see a lot of our rosters. There's a lot of guys, Division I transfers, some D2 transfers, and so I kind of like to mix it up some and bring in a couple of D1 transfers that has a lot of experience at that level, that can play, that, maybe they were recruited highly out of high school, but they got to wherever they was at and they fought injuries or, they just didn't get the playing time like they thought. And so, we joke with our coaching staff a lot every now and then about how brought in probably more 4-star recruits than, maybe, some of these other low major schools or mid-major schools. I think through our time here, I think we've had, 5 guys that was a 4-star or 3-star recruit, top 100 players. And they're all good kids. And a lot of teams, if they do bring in guys like that, you can't really necessarily say that they didn't have a lot of baggage or this and that. Our guys just didn't have the opportunity to play at that next level. And so, and that's all they wanted was just an opportunity and a place to go and play away and, have an opportunity to go play professionally overseas if they had that call. And so the recruiting pitch is it's not easy, but our scholarships will allow us to do a lot more than some of these other NAIA programs that are around. And so we are fully funded. We do give, we got financial aid that some guys can get. And so it's a recruiting pitch that we're learning to deal with, just because we had to cut back due to the NAIA Division I and Division II merge, to make it fair. They took a couple of scholarships away from us, from 11 down to 8. And so, we was kind of spoiled there for a little bit, having 11 full scholarships. And at the time, I'm questioning myself, what am I doing recruiting if I'm not, if I can't win some championships and I got all this money, so I had to step it up. So, but it's challenging, but now, with the portal, transferring apparently is something that's a norm now, so to say. But we just like to get guys that just really love the game. Our gym is open 24/7. So that's a big recruiting pitch that we sell is guys will have the opportunity to go get shots up at midnight if they can't sleep, or, they're, studying for a test and they want a break. They can get in there at 1 o'clock or whatever it may be. And apparently some other gyms, I guess, don't have that luxury. And so that's a big, huge recruiting tool that we've stole a couple kids from some other schools just because of that. And that's the kids we want, is guys that we can trust that they're going to get better on their own. With a short man crew, we don't have the 6 assistants like some of these Division I's or Division II's do. And so we're already, doing a lot. And so just trusting the kids to get in the gym on their own, it's amazing to see. And to be honest, that's a Stephon Hall, Travion Ellis, Cameron Hines, Buki Babacar, a lot of our guys, a lot of our seniors now, they just live in the gym. Gerard Makunte, they live in the gym. And so it's just cool to see.
Coach, you mentioned his name a couple of times. Stephon Hall, last season, 16 points, 4 rebounds. He's a senior this year. Last season, he had 90 assists, 36 threes. I saw that video of him saving that ball. I know it's one play, but man, he's athletic. Just talk a little bit about him and his game and what he means to your program.
We say he's a senior. I'm trying to see how good of a recruiter I am to get him to come back.
He's got his COVID
year. Yeah, this isn't his COVID year. And so he can, he's got an opportunity to do that. But he's just been a guy that, want to build our program around and like, he's, how do I put it? He's so important to our program, not just for now and not, from the past, but just for the future. We want to bring guys in that have the same mindset, the humbleness, the, character that he has. We don't have to worry about him off the court or anything like in the classroom or anything like that. He's going to take care of his business. And like I said, he's had a heck of a year a heck of a career, if you ask me. And he hit the 1,000-point club last season, which was awesome to see. And I say that because I've watched that young man kind of grow every year, from his freshman year to sophomore year to junior year. His freshman year, we brought him in and we expected a little bit from him. And we just knew what he could bring to the table. And so he started off trying to adjust to figure out how fast the game was going from that high school to college leap. He was trying to get adjusted to it. And he stayed in the gym. He had, the first semester, the first few games, he didn't play very well, wasn't hitting any shots. And he just, took it upon himself that he was just going to still stay in the gym and live in the gym all night, all day, after games, after good games, whatever it was. He was just going to live in the gym. And so whenever, he did see that first bucket go down and he did start feeling comfortable, then it wasn't a fluke, because that's what he's been working on. And, when the lights went on and when, the popcorn's not popping, he was in the gym preparing for the moment that he had his freshman year, which was at Southwest Christian. I won't ever forget that game. He ended up going off for, I think, 24 maybe or 20-something points. And that was the first game he had over, 6 points. And we knew it was coming. We just didn't know if it was going to be his freshman year, sophomore year, or, end of his freshman year, or whenever it would be. But we knew it was coming because he wasn't lacking any work ethic in the gym on his own. And so it finally clicked, and that kid hasn't looked back since that game. He's been full throttle, and the confidence keeps building, and he's such a good kid and a good player. He does a lot of things that some coaches might not see when they're playing. I mean, he guards the other team's best defender, and we rely on him to do a lot for us offensively, whether that's facilitating, whether that's scoring, whether that's hitting shots, whether that's hitting free throws, or whether that's rebounding. I mean, he does a lot, and sometimes that stuff don't go in the stat sheet. There may be games where he has 15 points, but I promise you there was about 29 minutes if he wasn't out there, we would be struggling, because he just does all the little things. And he's a great defender. I put him on ballots to be the defensive player of the year every year. But it kind of goes unnoticed, because just because he doesn't have that many steals in the game doesn't mean that he's not a great defender or holding their best teammates under their average, which he does that a lot. And so he does it all. He's a special player. He's an All-American. He's going to have a great year, and he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer one day at USAO, along with Cameron Hines.
Yeah, that's another one I want. Another player, another Oklahoma guy, like you just said, Cameron Hines, another big scorer for you. Now, is he a senior or a COVID senior?
Yep, that guy is a super senior, so I guess is what they calling him
super
now.
Okay.
So he's out of here. He's done. After this season, he'll probably go overseas and play a little bit if he wants, or he might get into his coaching career, because he wants to kind of follow in his dad's footsteps, which his dad is going to be probably a Hall of Famer high school coach here in Oklahoma. And so at Fort Cobb, I think that's kind of Cam's future career is going back home and coaching some. Cameron Hines' dad is a legendary coach here in Oklahoma. He'll probably be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done here. He's won multiple championships, and so I think Cam wants to kind of follow his footsteps and take over the torch whenever he leaves at Fort Cobb. And I think Cam will be a Hall of Fame coach one day too. He's just a winner. He was at, they won, I think it was 3 state championships in Oklahoma when he was at Fort Cobb. It should have been 4, but I think they kind of lost at the buzzer, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
And so, but they ended up, his brother was a sophomore when he was a junior. So there's multiple state championships in that family. And so I think that Cam is one to take that route after his professional career. He's kind of older. He's kind of banged up a little bit. He had some surgery. He had a surgery on his foot earlier this summer that had been nagging him, and so he's kind of banged up, but he's back, back to himself and back to 100%. And he's just a guy that, he's a competitor. I don't know if I'll have another competitor that just wants to win as much as he does in my career. And if we do, then great, because that's what we want. He's a leader. He's cold-blooded. I don't know how many game winners him and Steph have combined, but it's a lot. And so I just had a coach reach out to me the other day when we beat Evangel kind of at the buzzer. jokingly, telling me that they've never seen a program win as many, game winning buzzer beaters than we have. And I just told him, I was like, you got to have some cold-blooded players. I think Cameron Hines and I think Stephon Hall and mainly the whole returning crew, they've been in so many tight situations. They just kind of know how to finish. I trust everything into them. Cameron Hines is a coach on the floor, kind of like how I mentioned how I played, but he was way better than me back when I played. So he's just a coach on the floor, and he hit the 1,000-point club last season as well. I think he'll end up maybe being the second leading scorer in school history, I believe, once it's all said and done. And he just does it all. He can, drive to the rim, pull up from three, and he's better defensively than what it's been shown. He's just really smart. He knows where to be at. It takes charges. That guy takes more charges than anybody we've had so far, and so just a great guy. And came back this year. He thought about just going ahead and starting his professional career, but he came back this year because he desperately wants to win a national championship, and so and that's everybody on this team. I think we had everybody come back from last year's season except for one kid who tested the pros and went the pro route. But everybody came back because they just want to win a national championship. And so hopefully we can grant them that goal and that wish.
One characteristic of the Drovers is they rebound. And you got some guys who can really pound the boards. I'm going to mess up his name, but is it Bubakar?
Yeah, Buki Babakar.
Thank you for saying that.
So yeah.
He can really rebound, along with Gerard Makunte.
Yep, Makunte.
Yeah, they both played about 20 minutes a game last season. I'm sure they'll play a little bit more. They're not huge, but they can really rebound.
No, Gerard is a guy that, to me, he's a guy that we have to have on our bench because he's a guy that just does everything that you ask for, and he's the most unselfish player that I've ever coached, I think, as far as playing and stuff. And we're begging him to shoot more than 6 times a game, because he can score it, he can shoot it. He's just so unselfish. He wants to make plays for his team. He wants to rebound for his team. He wants to facilitate for his team. And he just does he rebounds with 2 hands all the time. And, you'll look up and, he'll have 8 rebounds in the first half. And so he's a good rebounder. Buki is a good rebounder. Buki is really athletic, and he struggled a little bit last year because he was kind of coming off a big injury. And so he's kind of starting to get that confidence back to where he can fly around in the air and grab rebounds and put back dunks. And he's more, agile at rebounding and has a knack for it. And so, and then, once we get the Rory Pamphlet, once we get him in the flow of things and get him used to, our speed and what we want, we're hoping to be one of the best rebounding teams in the country. And so we just hope that we can continue to keep the pedal to the metal, and we want to get better offensive rebounds and defensively rebounds. I think that, we're doing a great job at that, but we want to see more offensive rebounds. But it's hard, and we told our guys that too, is they understand what's on the scout report. The other teams know who we have and how big and athletic and what they want to do. So they're getting their best box outs every game. So we understand that a lot of offensive rebounds aren't going to be what we thought going in because we're not flying under the radar with who we have on our roster. And so it makes it a little bit difficult, but I like our group of rebounders that we got because that's something that we've kind of missed last season. I think is the games that we lost were the games that we got out rebounded on.
Okay.
Or gave up second chance points, and so we went ahead and kind of really drilled that from day one this season. And we went and got a bigger inside presence that we hope to think that he could be an All-American this season as well in Rory.
You mentioned about the opponent. I always say the opponent gets a vote. They're not just going to roll over and let you run your game plan. We were talking about Gerard and rebounding, but for a rebounder, for a big guy, I guess he plays more as a big guy, but he's an extremely efficient shooter. Last season he shot almost 60%, almost 50% from 3. I could see why you'd want him to shoot more. Yeah,
he's just tough. I think he's got a knack for it. Some guys, the ball just lands where they're at, or they just find a way to come up with the ball. And that's him on the rebounding side. And on the offensive side, we want him to handle the ball a little bit more. And that's what he wanted to get better at coming into the season, was his ball handling. So at times we can move him to the point, because at 6'6", we can call him a big, but technically he could be a guard for us, especially with our roster size this season. And that's where he's at, is a small forward, or three-man, whatever you want to call him, kind of a hybrid. And if we can get his handles tightened up to where he's comfortable, he's been doing good in practice at seeing the floor and facilitating and making plays for others. Because if he's that unselfish, and he plays a 4 and 5 sometimes, if he can be that unselfish and be a point guard, then man, he can end up with a triple-double some games. So we're working on that with him, trying to get him out of the 4s and 5s. But sometimes our best basketball is when we go small. I think that's when we made our run last night, is when we went small and had him at the 4 or the 5, and kind of really ran in transition, because he'll run. He runs like a deer, and he can get out on the break and finish in the lane. And he's just really smooth with his game.
Coach, you've already played a couple of tough games, and by this time this airs, you will have played one more. But your entire November is full of quote unquote tough games. I mean, it's just one right after the other. Did somebody schedule for you, or did you do this on purpose, or?
Yeah, that's what I told somebody last night. I was like, man, I might get fired for scheduling this game. Somebody should have fired me. And so, but it's another comment that I made to my AD, because he said, dang, Coach, you got a tough schedule. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I think we got the toughest schedule in the country, to be honest, but I feel like we have the best team in the country. And if we can get through this tough schedule, then at the end of March, hopefully, we're hosting that trophy. And so, and I think that's just going to prepare us for our conference, because that's another goal that we haven't met yet. And I think this team has a shot to do it, is to win a regular season conference title. And that's their goal as well, because usually the teams that win our regular season conference, they end up making it to the Fab Four a lot of times, or winning the whole kit and caboodle. And so that's, going back to Texas Wesleyan, to MACU, to, last year with SAG winning the Fab Four, which I thought they had a great chance to win it. And so now they're in our league. And in November, we play them right after a UNT Dallas game. And so,
yes, you do.
But yeah, we got Midwestern State coming in on Saturday, which it's our homecoming, so it's a big deal. There's going to be crowd, standing room only, I think, in the gym, and so it should be a fun event. And ironically, it's been 20 years since the only national championship in men's basketball has been won. And so, we're putting a lot of pressure on our guys, and we're putting a lot of, momentum into the season, such as, holding up to the 20-year anniversary of the national championship. And, we're expecting to go into the season to hopefully make a run to the Fab Four, or we're saying it's a bust year type outlook. So I think pressure will kind of keep these guys focused. And I think, getting back to work after the COVID year, it took a little bit to get back into our routine. I think a lot of coaches are dealing with that with their players, and being able to practice every day and not have to worry about if you're going to be shut down for a whole month. And so, and that's kind of how the game's been. We've been looking forward to these games. Like, we'll play Saturday, God willing, but last year we would be day to day. We wouldn't even know if we played Saturday until they showed up to the court due to COVID. And so with the outlook that the guys have now, I feel like they can get more motivated and stay locked in and have more confidence going into different games.
I want to ask you about, you talk about tough schedules. You're going to have a tough Sooner Athletic Conference schedule. But before I ask you that, you've coached a few years now. You're a super competitive guy. As a head coach, what is the toughest loss you took? Why was it a tough loss, and what'd you learn from it?
Great question. I think there's a couple, I think. I think last year, obviously the last game we lost was at Oklahoma Wesleyan. I took it really tough because there was a lot of things that went into that particular game and leading up to that game. And I had just been back from COVID. I had missed the championship tournament games and cutting down the nets and just the whole year last year. I think the whole year that one loss, I learned a lot in that one loss that probably built up over that whole year, COVID year last year. And it taught me a lot. It taught me, obviously, you can't take this job or this opportunity for granted. And what it taught me, I related it down to the guys as well, is, every opportunity that you get to play this sport, to play this game, you got to take advantage of it. Yeah. And time is precious. It's what we've learned last year. There's a lot of things we took for granted, whether it's off the court or on the court. And it was you could have used it. You could use last year as a great teaching tool. And that's what I'm trying to do besides looking at all the negative stuff that had went on. And I think just looking at it as a mature adult and realizing, what was really important when we maybe thought that it probably wasn't as important last year. Yeah. And so just kind of, taking advantage of every opportunity, taking advantage of every time. And that's just kind of being, not so uptight, be more loving. That's kind of what I've learned this past year and a half is, show more love to the guys, show them that you care for them, and that you're really there for them and not just wanting them to perform just for you, and just kind of, be there, not just on the court, but off the court as well. And so we've done that. My coaching staff has always kind of done that, but we're really doing that from last year to now. And you see results of it. The kids will do whatever you ask them, as long as you can coach them as hard as you want to coach them, but they got to know that you love them first and that you care for them first, for them to do that. And I think we're seeing the actions from our attitude towards that. And I think our guys are understand how much we care about them and how much we want this for them, and not for us. I mean, we're lucky and blessed enough to be in this profession where basketball is going to be year-round, hopefully. And so, but some of these guys will go on and be lawyers, doctors, coaches, whatever. And so they got to, we're trying to teach them to value this moment, value these days and these practices, because it does fly by for these freshmen that turn into seniors. So
that's a great point. I want to take just one moment to build on that. Very good friend of mine, played college basketball. He says something that really stuck with me. He said, I wish I could convey to these players that they have one great gift and they never know they have it till it's gone. It's called eligibility. And, the time passes and it's gone. I mean, You need to cherish every minute. It is a gift to be able to play college basketball. No, very few people have that ability. You need to cherish every moment, the bad games, the good games, and work your tail off. Don't graduate and feel like you left anything on the court. That's my advice.
Yeah. And it's funny that, you brought that up. We had talking to Cameron Hines, one of his best friends and one of a good player of ours a couple of years ago had a great opportunity, which we couldn't kind of fight that decision and recruit him back to be a head coach, and probably making a base salary way more than me, to be honest, probably. And so, and that's what he wanted to do. That was his goal. But now looking back, he would have had 2 more years of eligibility. Wow. And looking back, he jokes around sometimes and wishing he didn't take that leap just yet. And we tell our guys all the time, is like, don't be so quick to grow up. Don't be so quick to get out in the real world, because it's a lot different. We're in the, some of them guys, go home and they have to work in the summer and they have to pay bills, this and that. Yep. But it's a lot different having to do that, but then have nothing to look forward to as far as game day goes or shooting around goes. And that's what I tell myself all the time. It's like, man, I'm so blessed and lucky to be in this business. Like, what would I have to look forward to, every year? Now, when I was a player, I looked forward to seasons, to practices, to games. And it was just a feeling that, that I didn't ever want to lose. And that's why I got into this profession again, is like, man, I got something to look forward to fight for. And then on top of that, then once you get in this business long enough, I'm in here 7 years, 10 years all, 7, 9, 10 years altogether. And so now I'm starting to see some of my guys that I've coached, some of the guys that graduated, starting to get into their careers and starting to have success and starting to have kids and get married. And so on top of what I have to look forward to in the season, now I get to look forward to what they do in their career once they leave USAO, and that's awesome to me too. And so I'm just so lucky to kind of be and to be in this position. I'm so lucky and blessed.
So, Coach Francis, could you take a couple of minutes, and we all know the Sooner Athletic Conference is one of the toughest conferences in America. Just talk us through what it's like to be part of that conference.
Ooh, it's fun. It's competitive. You don't have a night to where you're just like you're obviously you can't take any nights off, but some leagues have a couple of games built in where if you're a top tier team, you feel like you could go in there and win these games. In the SAC, there's not one team that we feel that we can have a bad night and still get away with a 20-point win. There's not a night that we cannot prep and go into this game ready, because there's a lot of rivalries too in our league, which that makes it even more fun. USAO and MACU are a big rival, and that's a fun game. I think USAO and Texas Wesleyan is a rival. I think USAO and Langston's are rivals, and cities and stuff. And so there's a lot of little rivalries that go on in the SAC, and you're competing against coaches that could be in the Hall of Fame one day. I think in the NAIA, you're competing against coaches who've won national championships. And Josh Gamble and Coach Singleton at Texas Wesleyan, and so it's a battle every night in the student sections and the fans on the road. It's crazy, and not just one gym, but not just two gyms, but I think every gym we play in the SAC, the students are going to be ready for you, and it just makes it fun. And so you got to be prepared. You cannot prep for a team. We spend a lot of time prepping for these teams that we're about to play, because sometimes it's quick turnarounds. Like our schedule is a Thursday, and then we play a Saturday, and then some weeks we play that Monday too. So we may go into a 3-week or a 1-week spread to where we're playing 3 teams ranked in the top 25, and so it's tough. And I always, when I played in the SAC, that's when we had SNU, we had OBU, we had Northwest, all the teams that are D2 now. And I think that there for a little bit, it kind of had fell off. Probably about 10 years ago, 11 years, it kind of fell off a little bit where it wasn't at when those teams were going Division II. We had to find teams to replace them. And so there for a little bit, it was kind of, it wasn't as tough. But now the last 3-4 years, it's kind of ramped back up to where I think it was whenever SNU and Rogers Stadium was. You got high-level transfers coming in. Texas Wesleyan will have a lot of D1 transfers that are really good, and he does a great job coaching. Mid-America the same way. Josh is a wizard over there on play calls and some mindsets. He's great. And then Oklahoma City just got a new coach from that used to coach at Randall and Barracoff, and he's won national championships in the NCCAA stuff. And so he's a great coach. And once he gets established, and they're good this year. And so I could go. The list goes on. John Brown coach, Sagu coach, Delton Deal, Coach Delton, and he's remarkable at what he does. Man, their Sagu is so tough. They deserve to be, to me, the number 1 team in the country, not number 3. But I think sooner or later they'll be up there. And so it's going to be a fun game when we battle them. They got a Player of the Year coming back and set out last year, and then they got the first team All-American, Kashilla, that's a stud, and they got some size, and they're so good. They're so good. So the Mid-American Nazarenes and the Evangels and the Midwesterns and OBU and SNU hopefully is preparing us for what we'll see in our conference.
Well, Coach, it's going to shake out pretty soon, pretty fast. You're already starting to see a little bit of that. We did have Coach Deal on earlier, right? One of the first interviews of the season.
Yep.
You're right. Very good guy. Coach, I really appreciate you being on, bringing us up to speed with who science and arts are, your program, your philosophy, and who you are. The NAIA now is quite big with one division. It's really great for fans across the country to be able to hear about it, these other schools. Coach, I'm hoping that we can get you on as the season gets going. Here's about some Drover and some Sooner Athletic Conference basketball.
Yeah, anytime. Just give me a shout, and I appreciate what you're doing for the NAIA, and I know a lot of coaches in the NAIA, do too. So just keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for all the input and the stories that you're putting out there. I know our fans and our community enjoy listening to it and seeing the love that you're giving us.
Oh, thank you, Coach. Coach Chris Francis, head coach at Science and Arts. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Billy.